Today I got a gun so absurd it makes a French battle strategy look like a good idea. The Rebaldequin is one part a pile of cannons and one part fever dream. To understand why the Rebaldequin was made, we have to go all the way back to the mid-1300s. Europe was a hot mess, knights were running around in plate armor, people were catching the plague like it was a hobby. Gunpowder had just made its way to Europe from China via the Middle East, and Europe was treating it like Frank's Red Hot. They put that shit on everything. Cannons were kind of a new thing, they were terrifying, and most of the time they blew up their own crews. Armies were desperate for something that could take down cavalry charges and small platoons in mass. The Rebaldequin first shows up in historical records in the mid-14th century. The earliest known large-scale use was by Edward III of England in 1346 at the Battle of Crecy. The English already had longbowmen that were annihilating the French, but Edward III had one thing on his mind.
Bigger. 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 Jeff?
So, he ordered a bunch of these proto-machine guns to be on the field. Did the Rebaldequin change the course of battle? Probably not. Longbowmen were doing just fine on their own. But it did set the stage for the rest of Europe to say, you know what?
Son of a bitch, I'm in!
So what exactly is the Rebaldequin? Well, picture a cart. Now bolt 9 to 50 barrels all the way across it. Congratulations, you just invented an organ gun. They earned the name organ gun because all the gun barrels all lined up in a row looked like a church organ. But instead of this organ playing hymns, it played the sounds of chaos. So a breakdown of what the Rebaldequin was. Again, anywhere from 9 to 50 barrels. And that's not a definitive thing. There are accounts of much, much more. Like, I read something about 180 barrels on one. The type of ammunition these fired was usually lead balls or lead shot. The difference is lead balls take up the whole barrel, so it's one ball, or lead shot is a bunch of very small balls, kind of like a shotgun. Or if they were desperate, it was just kind of whatever they had laying around. The firing mechanism on a Rebaldequin was usually touch hole fired. Yes, I said touch hole. Meaning that crews had to light each one of them with a match. Some later versions could fire each row in volleys. A touch hole on a cannon is where you would put the lit spark, essentially. Or in this case, I think it was like a touch hole that had a trail that all led to each individual one being able to light and fire. They're almost always mounted on carts or wagons, which meant that they were maneuverable, but it was a nightmare. So basically this is the medieval equivalent of duct taping a shotgun to a wheelbarrow. So how did it actually do on the battlefield? In theory, it was perfect for shredding the cavalry. A single volley could take out even the most armored of cavalry knights. Dense infantry formations, same deal, it would shred them. In reality though, with the ridiculously long reload times, because you had to reload each individual barrel just like you load a musket, which takes a very long time, you got about one good shot per battle, unless your enemy was willing to just stand there and wait for you to reload. The mobility factor of not being able to actually move the entire gun quickly made it a nightmare. And accuracy was practically non-existent. This is long before rifled barrels, so it was basically just toss it out and it'll go somewhere. Early ideas of to whom it may concern accuracy. Still, when it worked, it worked. A volley at close range could absolutely destroy an entire unit and break enemy morale. There are records of armies deploying them in defensive lines to protect positions or bottlenecks. Basically, they were medieval shotguns turned up to 11. The Rebaldequin wasn't a one-off type of gun. Different types of variants popped up all over Europe. The Italians loved them. Germans tinkered with them, and the Ottomans had their own versions too. Some had rows stacked in layers on top of each other that would all fire in sequence. Others experimented with different types of projectiles like giant arrows, almost like a crossbow. By the 15th century, organ guns were relatively common in European arsenals, though never in huge numbers. They were expensive, slow, and honestly a logistical nightmare. But everyone kept trying because the concept of it was so appealing. So why didn't the Rebaldequin stick around? Well, by the 16th century, technology was moving fast. Cannons were getting bigger and faster, handheld firearms were becoming more advanced, and while reloading one musket sucked, reloading 50 of them sucked 50 times more. So basically logistics killed the organ gun more than a cavalry unit ever did. Here's the important part about the Rebaldequin. Even though it was a tactical flop, conceptually, it paved the way for modern machine guns. So basically the idea of it was a groundbreaking revolution. It was the first stepping stone to modern day machine guns and modern day artillery. And it led to some pretty cool other unique guns like the Puckle gun and the Gatling gun. So basically the Ribauldequin was loud and scary and about as practical as strapping Roman candles to a horse. But it paved the way for centuries of inventors who just kept saying, what if we added more barrels? And honestly, respect.